Today we're going to be looking at a top 8 French nationals list that played 60 cards branded. But first, if you want to support me and the channel, use my affiliate links in the description below, and you can also become a YouTube member to get early access to deck lists, exclusive Discord access, and much more. And before we go into the interview, SleeveChief.de just wrapped up their Create a Sleeve project, and the Visas Universe sleeves are coming to SleeveChief.de. Use code GAZO5 and the link in the description below. Check out my Twitter. These sleeves will be up Sunday, 8 p.m. European. Also, in terms of Visas news, there is a certain lore video coming to the channel really soon. Not sure what that will be, but keep an eye out for that. Let's get into the interview. How's it going, YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and this is going to be a very exciting one because we have Nicolas Athanassopoulos in the house, fresh from top 8 in French nationals. How's it going, Nicolas?
Hi, thank you, really well. Yeah, thank you. Really happy to be there.
Awesome. Nicolas actually contacted me. I saw his list like a day before on Twitter. It was the 60 card list. On the day of the event, Joshua Schmidt was streaming, and he was also talking about a 60 card branded list that actually made top cut. And hey, it's top 8, a huge achievement. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
How was the event overall for you?
I really liked it. Like the organization was really cool, was really fluid. Like we started really early, we ended early, I feel like. So yeah.
Awesome. That's always good to hear. So we'll just jump straight into the deck. We are going to talk about the matchups that you had throughout the tournament a little bit later, or you will throw it in between. But right now on the screen, we are seeing a monstrous 60 card branded list. We got all the beautiful things. We got the Allure, we got the Nadir, we got the Patchwork Engine. You didn't give up on anything, and it took you all the way to top 8. So I think that, first of all, my question for you is, why did you choose to play branded in general?
I started playing the deck when it was just a few weeks before tier Shizu format.
Yep.
And I was playing branded tier elements. Which like you have branded in high spirits. You have a free of here. I was also playing free of back then. That comes from there. But I really loved the deck, how it worked, etc. And yeah, when tier got hit, and I stopped playing them. And yeah, I just love the deck overall. Like it's really kind of a combo deck, but like with fusions, I really love fusions. I wanted to play a fusion deck, and yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the best fusion deck at the moment. Did you feel confident going into the event with branded at all? Because I know that a lot of people may say that branded is really strong right now, and it's obviously taking a lot of good spots in nationals all over the world, which is really good to see, because it's like maximum power right now, right? It's the best that it's ever going to be. But what made you go, hey, this tournament, I think branded is a good pick?
When SIAC was released, when I saw Quem, Albion, and like Lulu Lilith, I knew, especially Quem, I knew the deck had really good new lines of play. And when I saw the banners, it was like, oh my god, branded's gonna be the best deck.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not, but when I entered a few events, like before the nationals, I did some pretty good like scores. I didn't lose that much, and most of the matchups were like in my favor. So I was really confident going in nationals with this deck list and with this deck.
Yeah, amazing. So to the big question, why 60 cards?
My friends know me. I've always been playing like more than 50 cards in any of my deck, almost any of my decks. I was playing Mr. Mathmech before with 60 cards, now branded. But I don't know. The deck is like, the engines are so powerful. It's just any engine card is like almost a board breaker, so you can break board with your own engine. And I feel like also like the really important part is branded is really sensitive to hand traps. Like I feel like, and going into nationals with this, like we didn't know what to expect. Like I was expecting Ash in the main deck, of a lot of people and imperm, but maybe also draws, maybe Veiler, like I don't know. So I wanted a list that could just play through hand traps without having to play cross out or call by or all these cards.
Yeah. So we're seeing in the list right now, we're seeing a lot of interesting stuff. Some things here are the standard branded stuff, right? We are seeing the 3 Albaz, 2 Quem, obviously in 60 cards. That definitely makes sense. 3 Aluber, 3 Fusion, 3 Opening, branded Lost. You know, the whole shebang is basically here. Everything is basically here. But on top of that, we also have a few other packages added into the mix. So tell me first about. So you decided you're going to play branded, and you're always favoring over 50 cards. So first of all, here there's like 0 going second cards basically. Even though branded can really break boards kind of easily with the engine, there's still no going second cards. So why did you decide I'm going to play full gas and win the die roll or not? Let's see how I do.
I wanted a deck that couldn't break, because I feel like if you break, it's just almost like as if you shoot yourself in the feet. How do you say that? For the foot.
Yeah.
I also wanted to. I knew I could break boards. I know that I can't break every board. Obviously, depend on your hand, depend on the board of your opponent's of your opponent. But most of the time, you will break your opponent's board unless they're playing like really some YouTube combo decks, or like it depends. But yeah. I would say you can break boards, and I really don't want to lose going first, like dying to hand traps. And I was like, okay, even if I lose the die roll, and even if I lose the game 1, I will most likely win the game 2. And game 3, I will just count on my side deck. I can pretty much side in like every card against a lot of decks on my side deck. Like if you don't count the Masquerade, you can side in 14 cards. Branded Beast isn't a board breaker, but all the other ones can help you breaking boards. So I was like, hey, I will just give it a try. And in my testing, it worked, and it has been working until now. So yeah, I was confident.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the choices that you ended up using, because basically this 60 card list is every playable branded card plus 2 desires. Basically, that's the list, because you didn't give up on anything. So tell us a little bit about some of the choices. Allure of Darkness obviously has its utility, and you are playing 3 Tragedy. You weren't afraid of Droll at all?
How do I say that? Even if my opponent draws me, most of the time I can still when my opponent draws me, I can still have access to Branded Fusion. So they need Droll plus Ash, and that was my because I played this exact same list during the Super Heavy Samurai format, and Droll was in every main deck. And I knew that if my opponent didn't have Droll plus Ash, like Droll was really, it's almost like Nibiru. Like you need Nibiru plus something, and I feel like Droll is the same. They need Droll plus something, and I knew Droll wouldn't be in every main deck, so I was like, hey, I don't care. Like even if they draw me on Allure, I still have like Cartesia plus Tragedy. Tragedy, I don't have to use the search effect. I can use the effect in the graveyard to set Fusion.
Yep.
And you have a lot of combinations that can help you play around Droll. So yeah, I wasn't really afraid of Droll.
Yeah, so when you're playing things like Cartesia and Tragedy at maximum, basically what you can do a lot of the times is, and we are seeing 2 Grand Guignol, and I'm sure this is one of the reasons you played 2, you can actually use Grand Guignol to send things to the graveyard, so you can add them to your hand from your graveyard with things like Branded Retribution. And of course, Tragedy, if you don't use the effect, you can just banish it to set Branded Fusion from the graveyard. So I think in that sense, It makes a lot of sense, because you really, basically, Branded doesn't lose to Droll on its own. You need to play really bad in order to lose to Droll. And in this deck, I really see the lines where you can just access Branded Fusion from the graveyard with so many cards here. And that kind of leads me to the next thing, which is Branded High Spirits. Branded High Spirits really serves that purpose as well, sending something like you're playing 3 Lubellion, which obviously gets you to Serenir, and Serenir plus Branded and High Spirits is basically already Branded Fusion, or any card in the deck. basically. So how did you feel about that package?
What package? High Spirits and Rebellion?
High Spirits, Lubellion, all the Bestials basically searches every card in the deck, right?
First, there are 2 cards in the main deck, but when I resolve them, I always won. So the 2 cards are Pot of Desires and Brondalin High Spirits. The 2 cards, when I resolved them, it was game. Only one time with Desires, I made a draw. I made a draw in a feature match. I banished my only Brondalin red, but also that is also a huge reason, but because I sided out the other Brondalin red, but still. And High Spirits is really, really a crazy card. When you have Aluber and your Brondalin Fusion gets ashed, I search for High Spirits, and I still make a board. High Spirits can also send the Titanic Lad, which gets you to Quam. The card is really crazy. Also, it recurs itself on the opponent's turn. So if your opponent doesn't kill you, like you make so much card advantage. And Rebellion, I feel like, is a card that I wouldn't say power creeps the game, but when you resolve the card and there is a Dark Light in the graveyard other than itself, the card does so much.
Yeah.
For example, if your Branded Fusion gets ashed, let's say there is like an Edge Imp, whatever in the graveyard, even a Cartesia if you want, you can go Rebellion, search Magna. If that's your only play, you can go Rebellion, search Magnamut, summon Magnamut, banish whatever, except Rebellion. Use its effect. Tribute for Rebellion effect. Put out Regain, which is also crazy card.
Yeah.
Like it's really
in the grind game, it's
me.
insane. It just loops itself. It draws so many cards.
To be fair, I like the card more than the Branded Loss because it gives me more advantage.
Yeah.
It gives me a body. Like a lot of times I have Sauron near my graveyard, so it's a body for Chimera. Well, like if you don't want to banish the other monsters on your field,
yeah.
And it's also like a draw during your turn, a draw during your opponent's turn, and it puts back the card you banish. Like that's really crazy. But Rebellion. So then you go Magna Regain. In event phase, you search Saronir. You can summon Saronir, banish one, draw for Regain, and during your opponent's turn, you can like if you have Granguignol on your field, most of the time you will. You can when you will banish Granguignol of its own effect to summon, you will then get Regain's effect to draw. You will also get Regain effect to summon Magna back, so you will have another dragon.
Yeah.
Like it's really the package is really
it's
good.
Insane.
It's really good. We're like really, and it's an insane board breaker, Rebellion. Because when your first play is Rebellion, you lose the draw, but if you don't respect draw, your opponents will think you're playing Juggling. So they could play differently, but just Bishops puts so much pressure, especially against Sprite, for example.
Yeah,
really, a lot of pressure.
Really big bodies.
So I talked a lot, but
no, that's what the people are here for, exactly, to hear you talk. So another thing that I want to mention is the 3 Albion, the Shrouded Dragon. I think it makes a lot of sense again when you're playing from the graveyard and you can recur cards so many times. Of course, it's searchable with Magnamut. And again, it's just a huge utility. You can summon it from the hand. You can send cards to the graveyard with it as cost. It's kind of crazy. You felt like 3 Albion, the Shrouded was like good in the deck?
Yeah, the card is a good discard because it has an effect in the graveyard. Because it's an Albaz in the graveyard, which can let you summon Cartesia. Yeah. It sends an Albaz, which makes your Cartesia live, branded in red live. Yeah. Or just Albaz as a dark for Rebellion. And just Albion is also like it's a good discard for opening in High Spirits. So Albion plus Quem is full combo. Albion plus Cartesia is full combo. So because Quem can also send fusion.
Yeah.
So like there are a lot of like ways of using Albion, and even if you draw 2, sometimes it's okay. The card is really really good. So,
awesome. So the last thing I want to talk about is Nadir Servant. Did you ever resolve Nadir Servant in the tournament?
A lot of times actually, but only one time it won me the game because I had nothing else. Like my hand was just, I would say poor, but it was actually. I had Aluber and Nadir. I summoned Aluber, it got impermed. I just went Nadir, send Lulu Walilith, search Albaz, and face summon Cartesia, and I won with that. So it's just a free mirror jade during opponent's turn. But most of the time it was win more. Like I had full combo. I just went, hey. On top of that, I'm going to Nadir. So my opponent was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, if you do that on top of
But yeah,
combo, it's just insane. It's just so much
yeah.
advantage at that point.
But I didn't want to play like kind of bricks, like either hand traps or whatever for cross out. So I wanted to play Nadir instead.
Yeah, just a card that
Or-
is live every
yeah.
time.
Yeah. Just the only downside of Nadir is a rise hard, but that's it, and a shifter. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about Kashtira in a minute, because before we started the call, you mentioned that you played a lot of Kashtira matchups throughout the tournament, which I'm sure is not easy, but you did make it all the way to top 8. Before we go into the extra deck, which is pretty relatively standard, is there anything that you kind of regretted playing in the main deck or replaced for another thing?
No main deck and extra deck. No, probably side deck. I don't know. So main deck and it's no.
Perfect.
Really no.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. So in the extra deck, I think the two notable things that are less standard are 2 Grand Guignol, but it makes sense, as you explained in the build. You want to go into Grand Guignol a lot, and especially if you're playing 3 Cartesia, it makes sense that you always want to have Grand Guignol live. And, you know, also playing around Kashtira a little bit. You don't want the one copy to get banished, because if you play 1 Grand Guignol in this deck, I think it's very risky, right?
Yeah. The card is also a target for high spirits. You can discard Quem or Cartesia and send it. It's still okay. Like the card has value in the graveyard.
Yeah.
And it can send ad libitum actually. And I did it multiple times.
Yeah.
When you don't have access to ad lib, like you just go, okay, I would just try to, if my opponent have a beasted, they have a beasted, but it depends. Like a Kashtira don't play beasted, so yeah, you just Grand Guignol and ad libitum and you mirror jade for 3 times
Yeah.
with Quem, so that's crazy.
Yeah.
The card is really good. Yeah.
That is really crazy. So what about Brigrand? Usually we don't see that in a lot of lists. Is there a specific reason why you played Brigrand?
Just to search Mercury, I don't really respect Nib, because if you get Nib branded, it's okay. You have Grand Guignol, summon another Quem from deck. You have, if you have qualities on field, it triggers. You have Mirror Jade. You have a lot of cards, so yeah, you don't really care about Nibiru. So I just searched Merc in phase, and I never got nibbed. And even if I got nibbed, it would never have mattered. I had too much for my opponent.
Yeah, that's true. And especially with things like Nadir Servant, you can send Brigrand, and of course, with Grand Guignol, if you already have everything, then it's a really good send, because it just adds you a negate to hand during the end phase, which is really crazy. Yeah, I think it looks pretty standard, but it makes sense. You know, the Titanic Lad and the Lulu, especially if you're playing Nadir Servant, and it just adds so much advantage with these cards, because Quem, you're playing 2 Quem, so you're always gonna get Quem on the field on the end board, and it's funny because Quem is essentially an end board piece. You want to end your turn with, you know, Quem on the field in addition to everything else you have, because it just gives you so much advantage. So I think it makes sense. I think one thing we didn't talk about is Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, but seeing the list, it makes sense that you don't play it, right?
Yeah, like you in branded, your end board is so strong. Most of the time, if you put a full board or almost a full board, your opponent won't be able to come back. Most of the time, you have too much. They have to either OTK you or they will lose anyway.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was just gonna say that every branded end phase is basically main phase 3. You do so much. You add like 4 or 5 cards to hand. And yeah, like the branded end board is exceptionally strong. One more thing I wanted to ask before we move on to the side deck: Red Eyes Dark Dragoon?
I was thinking about it, but I was like, I felt like the card is kind of overrated, kind of. You lose resources from your hands. You're more sensitive to talents. I don't like the card, to be fair. Like in end phase, I always have Quem and a live Mirror Jade. So in end phase, I use Mirror Jade, banish one of my monsters, triggers Quem regain. I draw, I summon Cartesia back, and this board is enough. Like most of the time, Dragoon is really good against Runic, but it forces you to cut 1 from your extra deck and to play a brick, like a really big brick. And I know, like, I drew Retribution a lot this tournament,
Well,
already.
Retribution
So
is solid though to draw. It's not that bad because it's a really good discard.
exactly. It's not a brick, but that's the brickiest card of the main, I would say. But yeah, you got me. Like if I've played Dark Medicine, I will draw it like a lot. I know my luck. But, yeah.
Do you think maybe Dragoon is the best line under Shifter?
Yeah, probably. But if you don't play it, you just go Stapelia, pass. You have resources.
Yeah.
And that's also why Regain is here. The Regain for Shifter is really crazy.
Yeah, that's true. Awesome.
But yeah, for Shifter, yeah, Dragon is really good.
So in the side deck, we're seeing a card that is really fun to play, but hasn't seen play in a lot of time, and that is Forbidden Droplet. You're saying you saw a lot of Kashtira at this tournament, so I mean, really interesting to know how that went.
Yeah, this was the first big tournament after the ban list. So I was like, maybe I will face some YouTube combo decks or like whatever decks that could just easily win going first against me. So I need board breakers, like especially in 60. You don't see that. The big downside of 60 cards is you just you don't see your side deck as often as if you're playing 40.
Yeah.
Obviously. So yeah, I just wanted to play board breakers as many as I could. Droplet in this variant is okay. Thanks to Retribution, Tragedy, Edge Imps, etc.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And so against UV's combo decks, just draw Dark Ruler and Droplet, and sometimes Magnamut and Talent. Talent was every time. I didn't say it, but I said it in Talent every game going second. So yeah, I felt confident with it. It was okay.
And two other things.
I didn't see Droplet that much.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
No, it's okay. Two other things. Masquerade in the side. I also played Masquerade in the side in my Nationals build. I felt kind of a chicken after I put Masquerade in the side because I saw one of Nesh's streams recently, and he said, "Branded either wins fast or loses fast," and it's true because you either lose immediately or you just have so much advantage that you win. But I do really like Masquerade. Leaving your opponent, because you have such big monsters, sometimes you leave your opponent on 1,000 life points. You can summon Masquerade, pass turn, and they have one card to activate. And that's insane. So how did you feel about Masquerade in the side?
The exact same as you. I am playing in the side because I saw your list from your win in Nationals. Before that, I was playing 2 Masquerades in the main extra deck. Before that.
That makes sense for this list, though. I like it.
Yeah.
It definitely makes sense. You can make 2 Masquerades, and against Sprites, for example, it's enough.
Yeah. But then I was like, hey, I really need space for having new Saya cards and all of that. But yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like just one in this side isn't, most of the time, it's not enough to win in time.
Yeah.
But sometimes it wins you the game on its own. Just, there were a game in testing where I went Masquerade, like I had opening an Imp. I went opening this card Imp, summon Aluber, blah, 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 blah. I went Pauline toward Masquerade, then activate Bonnet Fusion, and my opponent ashed me, so he paid 600. And then I just played until time was up. Like,
amazing.
So I don't know. I didn't do that in Nationals, but it was in testing. But I never won in time at this National. So I don't know. Yeah.
It's funny
not really
because
necessary, but it's just security. I guess.
It's definitely security. I do agree with Nesh where you either lose fast or win fast with Branded. I definitely 100% agree with that. But also, if I'm thinking about my Nationals, game 3 in the finals with like 6 minutes on the clock. I got Retaliating C. I had to, I was in my Branded Fusion line mid-combo. I got Retaliating Seed, so I had to do something. And I knew Dragoon wasn't necessarily going to help me. So I just went for Masquerade, Lubellion, and I think Quam or Cartesia on the field, just to have enough protection, and passed him the turn with like 2 minutes on the clock. And I knew that he couldn't end the main phase with, he had, because it's super heavy samurai, he had to pay a lot of life points to play the game.
Yeah.
So eventually, my board was really weak, but because I sided in Masquerade, it actually won me the finals. Because he had to tribute summon Cyframe Gear Driver to attack it. And then he could play on main phase 2, and, it was too late back then. So that was Masquerade.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to talk about is Branded Beast, which is really cool. I think it makes sense. Like if you're playing Lubellions and stuff, it's good against a lot of matchups. What do you think?
The card was one of the best cards in my side deck. I wanted to put it for Floodgates, for Labyrinth, because if Labyrinth goes second, even against Branded full board, they can just go, if you don't have Mercurier for some reason, they can just go Lord of Heavenly Prison, set 5, and you cannot out the Floodgates, which is crazy. I didn't want to lose to that. Also, Sky Strikers, like every deck that I feel like is not as strong as Branded, but that could play Floodgates like the Graveyard of, how do you say?
And the Super Ancient Organism is horrible.
Yeah, that card is like terrifying.
Yeah.
And also against Kashtira, I sided in Magnamut because of Ibli and Shifter.
Yep.
And what I do is I Magnamut search. So if I can, I use Magnamut during their turn. In end phase, then I search for Lubellion. I keep one Lubellion in per side. And then on my turn, if the Magnamut is still alive, I tribute it for a Lubellion in my hand. And I use the effect to set beast, to put beasts, place beast, sorry.
Yeah.
And then just beast is a bait for a Rise Art, and that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, the card was really good over the weekend. Like I didn't see it that much, but when I saw it, it was really, really cool. Also, it wasn't out to the Scarecrow link free. They do have a rival, but every time you pop, they cannot keep up. Probably like they can't. And I won one game against. I 2-0'd my Scarecrow matchup because of that.
That's crazy.
So yeah,
I think I main deck Super Polyed for that matchup as well, because it's so hard to get rid of Tryhard with Brand. It's not that hard, but it's relatively hard, especially if you don't have like Druid's Worm or something like that. But last thing I want to talk about the side deck is basically, except for Branded Beast, no Cosmic Cyclones, no Duster, no Evenly. Those things that can, there are cards that can really hurt the deck. As you mentioned, Super Ancient Organism, Anti-Spell Fragrance, Rivalry. Sometimes, maybe in your build a little bit less, but Rivalry also, like normal Aluber, get hit with Rivalry. It's really hard to play through that. Overall, like there's a lot of trap floodgates or backrow floodgates that hurt the deck. So you just were confident enough to not side those in?
I accept the fact that I lose to them because in 60 you lose like you can't see your side deck as much as in 40.
Yeah.
So you need to side more for specific like things, and I wanted to side in for combos. Yeah. So I accept the fact of losing to these cards, and I still have Branded Beast, so maybe I could still win like 1 or 2 games out of 5 maybe around these floodgates. Maybe not, maybe less, I don't know. There's also the Dim Barrier against Labyrinth, so also Virus. So I didn't know, like I would just say, hey, I accept losing to them and to these cards, and okay. My matchup against Labyrinth was okay, but so against other decks maybe I would lose 1 game. But since the deck is like, if it's not like a meta deck like Kashtira or Sprite, Branded has the advantage. So maybe we lose 1 game out of it, but not more. I feel like not more. Yeah,
that makes sense. We are closing in on 30 minutes. I do want you to tell us a little bit about your Kashtira matchups and overall how you dealt with Kashtira throughout the tournament, because we see from the tournament you participated in, Kashtira is definitely not dead, and it actually took 2 nationals on the weekend after the ban list, including your nationals. So Kashtira is very much alive still, but you mentioned that you 2-0'd all your Kashtira matchups, so give us the goo, give us the secret. How did you do it?
I only lost 1 game against, so I faced 6 Kashtiras, but 1 was a Kashtira Scarecrow, so I will not count this one, but yeah, I 2-0'd him also. But I faced 5 Kashtiras, like pure Kashtira.
Oh, no.
I 2-0'd all of them except 1 who was playing Red Raptors.
Uh-huh.
He was also playing like Fossil Dyna, and he could search it with the rank 4 that searches rocks.
Yeah.
I think like if I recall well, but he got 1 game against me with F-Zero Rise Heart, and in my hand I had Retribution and Beast.
Yeah.
So like playing with 4 cards
in 60.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, but I chose all of them because most of the time, since Kashtira is a lot weaker, and I understand the point of view. they will not go Arise pass. People will go Arise with, Arise, Shangri, Unicorn, Fenrir.
Yeah.
So Arise with only one material. And so you just go, hey, number summon Albaz. Any response?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, just Albaz deployment. Deployment was also a crazy card for me all weekend. Yeah, just raid that board. Also, Branded Fusion into Windbroom is also great. You have also access to camera with a Patchwork Engine. Yeah, it's okay. The matchup isn't that hard. And there was a game, just a quick note. My opponent was, he had the 4 monsters board, like Unicorn, Fenrir, Rise, and Shangri. And he had the Big Bang set. When deployment into Albaz effect. And he used the Big Bang to banish everything except his Unicorn. But he forgot that in the extra deck,
Titanic
there's
Lad.
Titanic Lad.
Amazing.
Which
Love
is also
it.
Dragon Dark. So, yeah.
That
So
is,
Titanic Lad is cool also.
yeah, Titanic Lad is great. It's probably like one of the only targets against Kashtira, except for the Xyz, obviously. But when you have a board full of like the effect monsters, it's really hard because like it's either Sprint, which you didn't play here, if they were special summoned this turn, which I really like because of Quem specifically, because it kind of makes every monster a fusion target. Like you can fuse away sprite monsters, which you usually can't. But I guess probably like it's either that or Brigand, maybe in some scenarios.
Yeah, I agree.
It just makes every target live for Albaz, which is really good. But overall, the Kashtira, yeah, you need the Titanic Lad, obviously, for that. Also, if they have the field spell, by the way, their Fenrir gains attack, and usually it's like one monster on the board, it's already enough. I think we're gonna wrap it up here. I think this deck list is fascinating. I already know what I'm gonna play for my next locals. I hope I have 3 super LB on the Shroud of Dragons. That's what concerns me the most. But I'm gonna have to figure that out. Any shoutouts before we end?
So I did every shoutout in another video in French. I would just shout out. I forgot one shout out is one to my opponents. They were all cool guys. I did play a bit slow sometimes, and when my opponent played slow, I wasn't putting pressure on them, and I never won with time. So, but they were all really cool. They didn't put pressure on me, just telling me to play faster sometimes, and that's it. Really cool guys. So the time rule was really cool. 45 minutes, I think, is really, really great for the game.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
A true gentleman, ladies and gentlemen. Nicolas, thank you so much for this interview and sharing your deck list. Congratulations. I hope to see you in Paris one day, or maybe you come here and we can hang. And yeah, thank you guys for watching so much. Leave a comment down below. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.